Welcome to the Landscaping Podcast. My name is Joel Barnett and I'm your host. And in today's episode, I'm talking with Luke Smith from the Australian Lawn and Garden Podcast again. I spoke with Luke on episode 144, more about his how he started in the industry and his story. But I got him back on again for this episode to talk about a pretty cool experience that he's about to do, where he's doing a bit of a podcasting road trip around Australia and doing various events along the way. So he's got a show kicking it off in Perth for his 100th episode, and then he's going to go to Adelaide, Melbourne, Canberra, Sydney, Hunter Valley, and Brisbane. So I'll chuck the dates of the events in the show notes, and I'll be attending the Melbourne event along with Ashley James and Nick Bransgrove, who've both been guests on the podcast, on both mine and Luke's podcast. I just love what Luke's doing. Like I'm very jealous of it because it's something I would love to do one day, but never will, because even without knowing the amount of work that Luke has put into it, I'm aware that there is a hell of a lot of work that it will take to organise everything and all the sponsors he's got. So I think it'd be a great thing for people to turn up to, but I'll let Luke explain all that in this chat. And we don't only talk about that. There's also some good tips in here that we get into, because it's basically just a bit of a chat between the two of us. But whenever we do talk off air, we always have some valuable conversations. So this is no different. But I reckon it'd be a great thing for people to get along to if there is an event in or near your area. Because I listened to one of his old episodes where he did a live podcast episode. I think he said there was only 20 people there, but it sounded like it was a lot of fun. So it's a different experience. And then there's also some relevant businesses who will be at the event showing their certain tools or equipment that they have. So I think it'd be a great experience and a good thing to support Luke for what he does for the industry. So hopefully you enjoyed this chat with Luke Smith. Luke, thank you for joining us on the Landscaping Podcast yet again. So I was wanting to have you on here to talk about all the different events that you've got coming up that you're organising. So we'll start with that one.
Well, especially your 200th episode celebration in Melbourne.
Yeah, the big party.
I don't know, mate. Like it was planned from day one. We knew exactly what was going on. Wasn't a fluke at all.
You thought, oh, look, Joel's got his 200th episode up. Let's do a trip around Australia and coincide it with that. So I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. So for people who are a bit lost, I'm doing a podcast tour. And a while ago, I asked Joel to be part of the Melbourne event before we had dates and everything. And then we got dates, got it all worked out, blah, 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 announced it. And then you worked out that the day before is going to be your 200th episode. So how is that?
That's how you want to spin it?
Well, that's the truth.
How long have you been thinking about doing the tour?
About a year,
Yeah.
believe it or not. So I did a live event before I even had a podcast, which we had about 25 people rock up to in Brisbane, which was I'd been doing a lot of short form content on Facebook groups and stuff. So people would ask me questions, and I was over in Brisbane for a family holiday. I thought, I could make a little bit of a tax deduction here if I did an event, and it'd be like cool to meet and greet everybody. So I just did a talk on business, and people rocked up surprisingly. I didn't charge them any money. And then since that, I was like, this is a really great way to get a tax deductible holiday. So I've done about 1,000 hours worth of work to save myself about $3,000 in tax. The maths isn't working out here.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea, and then you start putting in the amount of effort you put into it, and think, no, you should have just paid for
it. Yeah, no, I'm loving it. It is a hell of a lot of work. I finished at 2 a.m. last night because I had to release a podcast and do that, and I'm very excited for it because I would have canned everything if people didn't come to Perth. So the Perth event, we're going to get close to 100 people. And I deliberately did that far enough ahead and announced that kind of on its own that if it was a flop, I wouldn't have gone ahead with everything else, because imagine the embarrassment. We're doing a national tour and 6 people rock up at every event.
Well, that happens to international superstars. I remember Guy Sebastian cancelled his Geelong show for a lack of ticket sales.
Yeah, I mean, if Guy Sebastian, for me, if you got more than 80 people to the event, I would be chuffed. Do you know what I mean? Guy Sebastian probably wants 10,000. So,
Yeah, well,
but like, yeah, we got 50 people in a week and a half to the Perth event. I was like, yes, this is going to work. So I was nervous for a little bit there, being like, I'm putting all this effort in, and there's a chance no one will rock up. But apparently, people like the idea.
now you've already done a live podcast in Perth, haven't you? Because that's what made me want to get involved. As soon as you asked, I said yes because that was it sounded like a lot of fun.
Yeah, so we had Brenton from the Aussie Lawn over, and well, I was planning to have him over without the live event idea. Just film some content, get to meet him, and have a good time about it. And about 2 weeks before he was coming over, it like clicked. I was like, I'm trying to do this live event. Why don't we just run something while you're here, as if it was planned all along? It wasn't. And yeah, we had a small crowd to that. We had about 20 people to that, but we charged for ticket sales as well. It was a great, fun event. And in fact, the less people I think made it really good because you really got to interact with people. And then that's what's made me think with it. So we're doing an event on the 9th of July for Everybody Loves Joel's content. We have the despicable Ashley James coming on as well. He gave Joel a lot of love in one of my podcasts, and Nick from Lawnsley Good Nick. And you've had both of them on your podcast at some
I
stage
have.
as well.
Yes.
So, lawn, landscape, gardening kind of, podcast. And it's a meet and greet event and a live interactive podcast where the goal is I will host, but hopefully people can ask their own questions and the audience, and we can have a good time. It can be silly, it can be serious, it can be whatever you want it to be.
Well, it's probably more likely to be silly with that lineup that you got.
It will, but that's what will make it fun, Like it won't be a buttoned up, serious, let me tell you about soil microbes. It'll be us being silly, and then probably a little bit, maybe 10% of actual good advice. The rest of us just being stupid. But yeah, it was really fun. And then I was like, you know what? If you get 4 or 5 people instead of one person, 4 or 5 people, 3 people, depending on the venue, you can actually it's low pressure. You don't feel like, if it was just me and you, we'd probably feel a little bit like, oh, everyone's watching us, and but you can muck around and be fun and get some brands involved. They bring some tools, so the brands are paying, and that means it's free for the audience. So yeah, bring some tools, get some hands on some tools, and chat with people from fertilizer businesses or whoever's rocking up to support the event. Create some relationships, and then hopefully have a good time.
And when does it kick off? When is your first? Is it? I assume it's in Adelaide, or are you doing one in Perth and then going from there, or how's it all
Yeah,
work?
so we got Tim the Lawnmower Man. He does those free Mo Friday cleanup videos for people who aren't aware. Many, many followers. So I could only afford him because there's flights and stuff involved. But so it's just me and him in Perth. And then Adelaide, we have it's a lawn lovers wet dream. We have Damien Hoff, who's the stadium manager of Adelaide Oval, and JT, who's the operations manager of Adelaide Oval Turf Solutions. The event is at Adelaide Oval, and we have Ben Sims from Lawn Tips, so who's probably the most followed lawny in Australia. So like a very lawn heavy event. Adelaide Oval have been amazing. They gave me an enormous discount of what it would normally cost to hire the venue just because they believed in the type of event. And I told them straight out, I was like, I'd love to do this. And my philosophy is if you don't ask, you don't get. So I was like, I'd love to do this. I know I can't afford you. Like I know that I can't raise that much money. Would you like to be involved? And they have been awesome. They are best to deal with, hands down, than bloody Melbourne councils. Like, and it's not even close. And Melbourne council have been so difficult. I wish I just went to the MCG because I reckon we could have probably organized something easier with them. But that's July the 2nd in the evening. 1 week later is our event at Latrobe Golf Course in Melbourne. We've got an event in Canberra. I can't quite say everyone who will be there, but we'll have Lawn Solutions as the name brand sponsor, and Joe from Lawn Solutions will be there. And somebody else who you've had on the podcast may also be there at some stage.
What day is that one?
That's going to be most likely the 13th, which will be the Saturday after our event. And then There's a Sydney event, which will be the week after that, looking for venues and stuff. A Hunter Valley event on the 27th, and a Brisbane event, which I can't say a thing about yet, but if we pull it together, it'll be very special. So, yeah. And a few guests that you've had on, you've had Craig from Southern Cross Gardens on. So
Yep.
he's gonna be at the Sydney event. And there will be people, if we can get it together, who you've had on who'll be at the Brisbane event too. So great names and hopefully really exciting events. I should turn my phone off because I'm a professional podcaster too. Did you hear
Have you got Dennis Scott from Lush Landscapes?
Yeah, why are you sharing my secrets around?
Well, I just listened to your podcast, so I assumed I'd try and get him on because it was an amazing episode, the one you had with him.
Yeah, he's one we're trying to get for Brisbane, and he said yes. So I can say that. And again, like the people who are saying the amount of money that I'm offering is very low compared to what these people are really worth. And I'm just going to them saying, no one's ever done this before, so I can't go to brands and ask for $1 billion. And I'm not really making money off these events either, but I would love to have you part of this. Would you like? And they just go, yeah, let's do it. It'll be fun. I'm like, yes. So it's awesome. So hopefully I can't guarantee Dennis actually, because we haven't got the venue. We're trying to get an incredible venue at Brisbane. And if the venue says yes, and we've got to toss up, different schedules and stuff like that, I can't guarantee anything, but that's where we're at with Brisbane. But yes, Dennis Scott has said yes to being part of the Brisbane event.
And then what are you doing then? Driving home across the guts?
So I'm driving the whole thing with my family. Got two young. I've got a 1.5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and my wife is so looking forward to this. And it's pretty much going to be like a half work trip, half holiday. So I'll probably have one day of getting stuff done, recording, hopefully in-person podcasts. I was going to come to your place because I've got to drive through Geelong anyway. Do you want to, we'll do another one in your backyard or something like that?
Yeah. You can look at my lawn.
I was going to say, how's your backyard actually going? Last time we chatted, you were halfway through making it and kind of fitting it in between jobs.
I'll always be halfway through making it, but I've got a water feature out the front now. That's also halfway done. I've still got to tweak that a bit, but starting to tick a few things off. But yeah, winter's not a very exciting time to be doing anything.
Well, you guys you don't slow down seasonally like us maintenance blokes do, right?
Mm.
And so winter is almost more busy because you got to fit in with the rain. And so when you do have sunshine, it's difficult.
Well, luckily, like we're not WA standards, we don't get a lot of rain in Victoria. But New South Wales is next level. I think they had 150 mil on just Sunday or Saturday. Just gone. We have 300 mil a year.
300? Is that it?
I'm pretty sure.
I'm going to Google this. That's less than we get.
We don't get less than you.
So we're wet in winter, but we're incredibly dry in summer. And usually enough for things to not die in spring and autumn. But we had, are you Googling it as well while I'm talking? Yeah, you go. But for those who don't know, Perth had about 26 mil, a total rainfall in 7.5 months. And then we had 30 mil in about 2 weeks. So we had 55 mil, something like that, in 8 months. And half of that was the last 2 weeks of it. So we've had quite a bit by quite a bit, probably 200 mil in the last 3 weeks, 2 weeks, something like that. What's your annual rainfall?
650 mil. So basically, if you round up 300, that's basically what I said. So
First annual rainfall, 844.
Really?
Yeah. So we beat
great.
you. But we get it. It's consistently wet in winter. It's there's just no rain. So I said how dry it was before, but the year before we had 1.6 mil in summer. So it was 3 months. And this year it was like 1.4 mil in summer. But yeah, it was the fact that we had 7.5 months we have native trees that have been dying. It's a big problem here. This time's
Yeah.
been real bad.
I was just on Daniel Fuller's podcast, the Plants Grow Here podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just got released today when we were recording this, and he said we were talking about different plants, and he said that like half the native plants that we use on the East Coast come from Western Australia. And I didn't think about
Yeah.
it at the time, but when I was listening back, I thought about it. It's probably because of their drought tolerance, because they got to survive like a dry summer. So
Yeah.
they're more,
That's
easier to look after.
I've always been annoyed by people who have like they'll plant a native garden and then they'll have a kikuyu lawn and they will have it all in the same sprinkler zone. What's the point? You're not saving any water. You could put a whole bunch of things in those areas that would have been fine. But I can't remember where I was going before that. What were we talking about? Oh yes, WA plants coming over east. Yeah, there's quite a few salt bushes, wistringias, things like that.
Kangaroo paws. Yeah,
Are they WA natives?
yeah.
There you go.
I'm 99% sure they are anyway.
Do
Because
you?
they get black spot on their leaves over here because they get a bit wet. They don't like the water from above, I believe.
Yeah, I had this crazy, stupid thing. I was at a we used to maintain a place called Tianqi Lithium, which is the biggest lithium facility in the southern hemisphere, lithium refinery, and they were loaded with money. And I think it cost them $300 million something to make half the facility or something stupid like that, right? And then they had all these really weird little things that just didn't make sense. One of them was they had a water recycling system, which made a lot of sense, right? And they'd pump out this water. But the thing that didn't make sense is they had planted things like Banksias, kangaroo paws, Canidia prostrata, and things like that in an area that was getting watered constantly, all the time. And all these plants died from, basically, what I'd guess would be root rot from just wet soil all the time. And I was like, you could have planted a lawn and you could have had the nicest lawn, be thriving, great place. But no, some pen pusher ticked a box that made them look environmentally conscious or whatever like that, because look at all these native plants. And it was a massive area. It was the size of a soccer field.
There's more maintenance than if it's lawn, you got to mow it all.
Yeah, true. But, it's just weird. People do weird stuff sometimes.
So, with the Perth one, when's that event kicking off? So, is that for your 100th episode?
It is. So, when will this episode come out? Next Monday?
Yep. The King's birthday.
So, it'll be tomorrow when this episode comes out on the 11th of June in the evening. Tickets are free. And we originally hired a room of 50 people. And then we booked that out and we hired a room that can fit 150. We'll get about 100. So people can, if you're hearing this for the first time, you think that's a good idea. You can just come tomorrow and you don't have to pay a thing. And come and give me a big cuddle.
If today's Wednesday, you can't go.
No, if it's the 12th, you can't go unless you have a time machine. But if you have a time machine, you'll have much better things to do than come to my event.
Are you talking it down? It sounds like an amazing thing to go to.
I mean, come on. If you had a time machine, what would you do?
Probably wouldn't go to a lawn garden event. But so what you're doing for the WA one? Is that going to be the similar type of format for the road shows?
Yeah, exactly. So about an hour and a half meet and greet, where all the guests will be around and plenty of other people come have a chat with people. But yeah, brands, gazebos, depending on location, food vans, things like that. Then we'll go in for the interactive podcast, and hopefully as well depending, I can't make promises, but yeah, hopefully there's some giveaways and some prizes, and depending on what the brands want to do. That's the idea.
Have you had anyone say no who you asked to be involved?
Yes.
Name them.
It's a convoluted story because they might end up coming as well. Basically, I won't say who it is, but I couldn't afford them. And then the sponsor was like, "Oh,
is that Jamie Jury?"
It's like, no, not Jamie Jury.
No.
He wouldn't even think about it.
No, he didn't think about my request to come on the podcast.
No, I mean, he's obviously got a few kangaroos loose in the top paddock there to not come on your podcast.
Yeah,
You're still offended, aren't you?
I
Who
am.
who,
Yeah,
who else has said no? Most people have said, oh, no, I did get rejected by Dave Hall because he was on holiday. He's from My Lawn Co. Can't believe he didn't leave. He's flying internationally. Can't believe he didn't fly back in the smack bang in the middle of his holiday with his wife for 4 weeks. Offend,
sounds selfish.
absolutely selfish. Chloe Thompson rejected me for Canberra as well.
Oh, she's not
Apparently,
from Canberra. What are you?
I know she's from Melbourne. But apparently, there's this thing called family, and the day I'd asked her was the second last week of school holidays, and she would have to take a whole family up and back before
What a great
ridiculous.
opportunity for a trip to the
I
nation's capital.
can't believe I was rejected. I'm still offended. I don't think I'll ever talk to her again.
Yeah, Chloe's doing an event I saw with Ash actually. With it's hosted by Cass from Outback Gardens.
Yeah.
It looks like it might be a similar thing to what you're doing. So there's more information she's going to be releasing about it, but there's stalls, sponsors, workshops, and Ashley James is the guest who was named first. So he must have said that's one of his conditions to go there. He has to be top billing.
Yeah, he dropped the beans and told I spilled the beans and told Chloe about our event because I don't know if I told you, but I had considered inviting Chloe to our event to be on the thing in Melbourne, and he told her that I was considering that. And the thing is that I just to be totally honest with everybody here is having an extra guest provides a big financial cost because I also have to upgrade microphones and things like that to record the event and everything. And I didn't get as many sponsors to the Melbourne event as I wanted. And so I hadn't said anything to her. Whereas at Canberra, I didn't have a guest at Canberra, and it was always my thinking. It's like, oh, maybe she'd want to go to Canberra, and maybe we could cover her costs and things like that. So we invited her to Canberra, got rejected, and then didn't invite her to Melbourne. And so, anyways, Ash has made my relationship very awkward because I I'll never forgive him. I don't know. How would you handle that, Joel?
I would have got rid of Ash and put Chloe on instead. So then you got the same amount of microphones. Problem
I
solved.
I definitely considered that. You know what I mean? And to be honest, Ash is he's the closest. He's the closest to getting kicked out the door. Do you know what I mean? On that panel, he might be top billing it at Cass's event, but you know what I mean. Like you and Nick far outshine him 10,
Well,
10 to 1.
I think Ash has only got like 7,000 Instagram followers, so I don't even know what he's in the same.
No, exactly. And equality is entirely valued on Instagram followers.
Yeah. What what else is the point of having them?
I don't know, but having said that, I think I've only just cracked 2,000 followers.
You're the host, so that doesn't you don't count.
Yes, exactly right. And, you know, that's how you manipulate people. You just go, I'm not important.
Yeah. You just need to be the conduit to provide the guests and the audience, and so someone has to host it.
I did actually, on a serious note, I did think about inviting Cass as well, but I've wanted to have Cass on the podcast, and it's through my own lack of organization that I haven't had her on because she said
Yeah,
yes, and then
I thought of doing the same thing actually, so I better do that before you do.
Well, I asked her about three, 4 months ago, so but there was some timing issues, and she just never got back to it. But she seems like an interesting chick.
Yeah, very knowledgeable, you can tell.
Yeah, and she doesn't rate herself that highly. She was kind of like, oh, can we only do a? I mean, I don't know if I'm speaking out of school here, but whatever. She only wanted to do a shorter podcast, like a 45-minute long episode, and which I'm fine with. I've got no problem with that at all. But I kind of feel like she's got more to give than that.
Mm. Yeah, I've heard her say that she doesn't do designs, and I think it's because she is not trained in design. But yeah, I reckon she'd be a good example of someone who can do designs that because of her knowledge. So, but yeah, there's certain things that people who haven't been trained don't know. But
Yeah,
there's also certain skills that people have where they may not be training something, but they've got a natural talent for it and just knowledge as well. So. Yeah, it's interesting. Interesting with the garden design, how it's not one of those things where you have to have learnt it in school, like in an education system.
Yeah.
That's in my uneducated opinion, anyway.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like like Dennis Scott's a great example of this. He's not technically what you would call a designer, but he was a carpenter and a footy player. And then he got into the industry. Actually, he was a mechanic and then he
Yeah,
became,
I sent him a message, or I don't know if I just commented on your post, but it's saying the amount of careers he had sound like he's 75 years old.
yeah. And he's not, he's about 73, I think. No, but yeah, like if you have a right eye for it and you actually love the stuff, you can learn. There is a lot to learn. There's thousands of plants and all that sort of stuff, but really, it's you can learn it all and still not have that eye, and still not have that feel. And I feel as well like a lot of gardens might be technically good by the book. Man, you tell me what you think about this because I'm not in your world, but I look at them and they feel cold and too square and too like you know what I mean. And then sometimes I look at a something's an old like I go to someone's house and a grandma's just been throwing plants in the backyard for 25 years, you know, and it looks great. You know, there's no design, there was no plan. They just put something together and it's fantastic.
Yeah, the last guest I had on the podcast was Patrick Hanley, who's like a water feature guru. And he was saying, because like placing rocks is the same kind of thing. Like anyone could do it, but when it's done well, then it looks like it's done well. And when it's not done well, it looks like it's not done well. And that's exactly the same with garden design. So
Yeah.
you can't necessarily look at something and think this feels amazing because of X, Y, Z. Or some people do get to that point, but the majority of people don't know what it is about it that makes it feel good, but they just
Yep.
know it feels good. And it's the same like with the water feature or design. So, um, yeah, and it's a very personal thing as well. So I can understand why some people don't want to do designs because someone will come to you and want to pay you money to design their garden, and then you're presenting them what you think they would love, and it's because it's not like doing construction where if you're laying pavers, you're laying flat
Yep.
and it is what it is. Like it's either done properly or it's not. Whereas the design is very subjective, so you're sort of putting yourself out there a lot when you present a design.
Yeah. Have you ever been rejected? Like
For what
you've done a
a couple of
design.
girls in high school did
Well, that doesn't surprise me. But after high
designs,
school,
not so much designs. Like it's more about changing it a lot of the time. And sometimes that's nothing to do with me. It's down to the client.
yep.
So sometimes they are horrendous at passing on what they actually want. What they say they want isn't actually what they want. So that's also a learning curve for myself to sort of ask the right questions. So whether if someone says they don't like a plant, you don't just suggest another one. You ask them what is it about that they don't like, so that you can
Yep.
then provide other ones that aren't going to be the same answer.
Have you ever started with a project? You did this design, you really like it, and you think it's really good, and then the homeowner starts tweaking things, and by the end, you really don't like it. You do
Yeah.
it anyway, but then you're like, I'm not putting this on Instagram. I'm not proud of this. You know what
Yeah,
I
it
mean?
happens. Yeah, not I wouldn't say it happens a lot, but it does happen. Yeah, at least every year or two.
Yeah.
And it's just because everything's so expensive. So you've just got to cut costs
Okay.
and change it that way. It's not like it's a taste thing that they're changing things for. A lot of the times the client will love what we've done, but you just can't afford to do everything. Um, and that's a tricky thing for designs as well. So when someone gives you a budget, it's some people will get upset if you go over that budget, but you've got to provide them with all the options. So
Yeah.
because you don't want to sort of spend their money, you want them to spend their money. So you can't there might be an option that they would have gone with if they knew about it. So what I like to do in that case is do a design that meets their budget, but also one that doesn't, so that you could say this is what you could have, and it's nothing to do with making more money because I make the same amount whether
Yeah.
it's 100,000 or 300,000, you make the same percentage. But it's just about giving them what they want, whether they know it or not.
So, do you ever feel tempted to reject a job if it gets to the point where you're like, I'm not proud of this. I don't want to put my name on it. Like this would be bad for my reputation.
It hasn't got to that point, but I knock back clients like regularly because they're what they want isn't what I want to do. So
Yeah,
um,
because we in the maintenance world, we're a bit different because we're trying to do a higher end work in maintenance, and a lot of other companies are happy if the client's happy. But I have this distinct memory. Like you'll never forget a story like this. But when I was young in business, 3 years in, we got the opportunity to maintain the first roadhouses, like not big roadhouses in that were built in Perth, and there was these twin ones in Baldivis on the freeway for anyone in Perth. We were the first contractors to maintain it after landscaping handover, and so we did a lot of really hard work to make it happen. And it's a long story, but we won the contract, and then 3-4 months after winning the contract, there was 52 broken or stolen sprinklers from that site. They all had MP rotator heads on them, so they were quite valuable. And when the mulch was installed, you couldn't really see them. And as the mulch settled over time, they were sticking up a good 2-3 centimeters. So people would either drive over them, snap them, or just literally unscrew them and take them. And I sent them a quote for, I think it was about $2,000 to repair these sprinklers. And I didn't hear back for 3 or 4 months. And I heard back. So I sent them a quote in August, and it was like January. So longer than that, 5 months or whatever it was. And the only reason I heard back is I sent them a quote for $10,000 to replace, I think it was 600-700 dead plants. And that was a fairly big contract, great for your reputation in terms of having landed such a thing. But we ended up, agreeing to walk away because they just didn't care. And 7,000 people were driving through that facility a day. And once a week, we were there with all our trailers advertising what looked like our incompetence. And yeah, it was so painful because I had such high expectations and I was young and got so excited about winning that contract, but no.
yeah, it's a common story for young businesses. Like you think, like you'll see something you think is going to be, the golden ticket, but it doesn't turn out to be quite that easy.
Yeah, you get so
even
excited.
even when you're getting paid to go back and fix those things, you don't want to have to do it. Like that's not the type of work you want to be doing.
Well, if they had paid me in August, because we had a retic check as part of our service, if they had done it in August and the plants wouldn't have died, assuming more people didn't steal the sprinkler heads. But you know what I mean? Like that was the whole thing. What's the point in paying for a retic check if you're not going to then implement the recommendations from it? They just were. The problem is it was through a third party. We weren't the ones who had the direct contract with BP, and that third party had already signed their contract and had basically spent. They had underquoted to win. They'd spent all their money on the contract we had. They had nothing left to spend. Otherwise, they'd be losing money. And they almost lost their contract over it. So, anyways.
So, what's coming up after your 100th episode? Have you got a lot of, like, are you, how many are you putting out a week? Are you consistent yet, or are you just ending?
No, I kind of just do whatever is coming through. I'd like to do 2 consistently. I think that's the sweet spot, especially being a lawn and garden podcast. I don't like just staying in one lane. I like talking to landscapers and then someone who does, say, homesteading where they're growing all their food, then a lawn expert, and then having a small business conversation or something like that. And the thing is that if you have someone who listens to you just for lawn and you have 3 landscapers or food experts in a row, they sort of fall off their regular listening habits. And so I think 2 a week gives you enough variety, but also for people who just want to listen to one type of subject, they'll stay engaged. That's my theory anyway.
Yep. Have you got some good guests lined up?
Who's lined up? I've got a female turf agronomist coming on the podcast soon, which is like a unicorn. Like turf is such a nerdy thing. I'm gonna message Cass Hook from Outback Gardens, get her back on. There's quite a few people who I've teed up and we've said yes, we haven't locked in. One of my favorites is coming back on the podcast. I don't know if you listen to Jeff McPhee. He's almost 70 and he's still running a lawn mowing business, which he's been doing for 36, 37 years. And he is one of my favorite guests. Not many people know about him. He's on YouTube, got about 1,000 subscribers or something, but he is just so full of small business wisdom. And he's the sort of guy that he's kind of like the lawn mowing contractor grandpa, warm, cuddly, and he's such a high value individual, even though he's not got those Instagram numbers that we know are the only true measure of success. As long as if he had that, he'd be great. But but no, he's coming on soon too, and I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, nice.
How about you? You're coming up on 200.
Yeah, it's just another number. Although I am getting the original, well, the initial guest on for episode 200.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
But yeah, other than having your party the next day, that's about all I'm doing. I'm not big on celebrating milestones like that.
Oh man, you got to celebrate somehow, even if it's just something silly.
Hanging out with Ash and Nick, so
very silly. But I mean, like buying a donut or something. Like just 200 episodes would put you in the top 0.1% of all podcasts for longevity, I would think.
Yeah, but that's because so many people start them.
Yeah, but like 200, how many have gotten to 200? I don't know.
What 0.1% according to you?
Yeah, but it'd still be like, it'd only be a few thousand. And how many niches are there around the world? And the thing is, like, people still listen as well. Like, because somebody could pump out 200 episodes, but no one's listening. But, like, you got to pat yourself on the back at some point. Even though Nick has more Instagram followers, like, he hasn't got as many podcast episodes,
He's good at Instagram though. Like
he's very good at Instagram.
Just everything pops.
I'm doing a Hamish and Andy, how they do their remembering project every now and then. And
I heard you talk about it though.
Yeah, that's what we talked on the phone about it. But for those who don't know, Hamish and Andy, they go back and do some highlights from some great episodes they've done in the past. And we're kind of stealing from that and doing a top 10 countdown. And these will be coming out tomorrow as we're recording, probably a week before, so people can go watch. But what we're doing is, instead of re-releasing the episodes that some podcasts do, like in full, all I'm doing is I've gone through and found 2, 3, 4 great clips that are 5-10 minutes long of just little nuggets of like, this is my favorite part from the podcast or whatever. Because a lot of people, they might get through the first 20, 30 minutes, but they miss the golden nugget that was in the last 20, 30 minutes, And I've really enjoyed it because there's so many great conversations that you kind of forget you had because they were a year ago and you've done 70 conversations since then. But I got Nick on for the first episode when he was about 60,000 followers, which is a great number. That's a great Instagram number. And we talked a lot about Instagram. And since then, he's now 200,000 and he's had reels with tens of millions of views and all that sort of stuff. And it was a great thing to re-listen to that episode because the advice is good, like advice for Instagram for people in this industry. And it clearly has worked. And it's not even been a year since that podcast came out. It might be 10 months, 11 months or something like that. So yeah, he's spot on.
Yeah, it was like, I can't remember how long it took him to get to 100,000, but then to go from 100 to 200 seemed like it was like a month or something. It was crazy.
Killed it.
Extra pop. But that's how Instagram can be though. Like, he's very consistent with the quality of what he puts out, but you can also do what I did and just do a post that goes crazy and it boosts your followers by heaps. So it only takes one to go crazy.
Yeah. But you reposted it. This wasn't even an original one, was it?
Yeah, it was the third time I posted
it. So in 6 months, you'll do it again, and then you'll be at 100, and then another 6 months, you'll do it again, 120.
Yeah.
That's a great strategy.
Because I'll post the ones that I think are great, and they'll do nothing, and then I'll post just go back to that the meat and potatoes one.
I love Nick's one yesterday about listening to heavy metal music, and then obviously I love it because it was my intro. But then just the relatability of going back in the day, I used to listen to heavy metal music while working out, and then now it's like gardening podcasts.
Did you see my post the day before?
I did, yeah. With
that was just coincidental. He was doing a similar one the next day.
Yeah,
Like it was already in his drafts.
Yeah, but come on, do you really listen to that sort of music at work?
1,000% I do. Yep.
What else? What else do you listen to? A little Nikki Webster, Strawberry Kisses.
Nah. So it's not all that kind of stuff, but yeah, Hosier Too Sweet. That's a good one at the moment as well. But then
what's your guilty pleasure artist?
Well, obviously Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah, but yeah, there's worse than that, I reckon.
I don't know.
There's a bit of Bieber in there.
Nah,
no Bieber. I love ABBA.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think they're not quite as embarrassing as some other bands out there. But I like a good bit of ABBA every now and then. Bit of Coldplay. Some people hate Coldplay. I like Coldplay.
Yeah, you're a bit vanilla. I was on Benson Boone before a lot of people were.
You must be cool.
Oh yeah, that's it. It's like that people listen to Triple J.
I never thought you were cool, but now there's no arguing with that.
Yeah, but I spend the majority of the time listening to podcasts, and then occasionally I'll chuck the music on. So
yeah, I'm the same. So podcasts and all that sort of stuff.
So what are the dates you've got? Let's go through your dates again that you're traveling. So it's the 2nd, I believe, of July is when you're going to be in Adelaide.
Well, I'll tell you some stuff that's probably not public yet, and hopefully I can make it public by the time that this episode gets out. So 11th of June, which will be tomorrow for people listening, is Perth. 2nd of July is Adelaide. Most of these are evening events. So after work, there will be food vans or whatever provided if you want to come have dinner there. 9th of July for our event in Melbourne at the Trobe Golf Course. And then the one that hasn't been announced is most likely on the 13th of July, that weekend, that Saturday, Canberra, at Canberra Homestead. Beautiful location there, beautiful gardens. Then probably on the 16th or 17th of July, Tuesday or Wednesday evening, will be Sydney. And we're trying to have that not actually in the city, somewhere kind of central, because Sydney traffic is horrendous. And hopefully in the evening, it's everyone driving against the traffic to get to the event. And then we have an event in Singleton, so Hunter Valley, on the 27th of July. That one has a massive lineup, but I'm also, we have a name brand sponsor called Lawn Culture Australia, who've just launched 3 days ago, and they're paying for everything. So that's great. But that's got like Sean Duncan from Blade Mate Lawn Care. He does the free mow cleanups as well, 200,000 subscribers or something. Brenton from the Aussie Lawn, who's another lawn expert. It's a real lawny fest. Gary Ashton from Aussie Lawn Stars, you had on recently. And Joe Rogers from Lawn Solutions Australia. So, mate, I know this is a landscaping podcast, but for the 3 people on here who are absolute lawn fanatics too, like, you got to get to that one.
And then Brisbane after that.
Brisbane, but I can't tell you the event or anything because the venue we're trying to land is very attractive. And so I'm just going to do whatever they tell me to do.
Just tell the Gabba that Adelaide Oval said yes. So
yeah, it's not the Gabba, but it's I mean, if the other one falls through, maybe we'll call them up. but yeah, no, we're trying to do something cool like that. There's a cool, yeah. If it doesn't happen, whatever, we'll find another venue. I just don't want to get people's hopes up. You know what I mean? Tell them, and then they come back and be like, "It's be $17,000 for 1 hour." Yeah, I looked this up. Right? Do you know what it costs to hire a stadium if you wanted to do an event?
No, I don't.
Like, as in, if you wanted a concert, it's $700,000 a day. $700,000 a day.
What didn't you have on? I don't know if it was you or if it was another podcast talking about the Ed Sheeran concert at
Yeah, we've had two people who've had Ed Sheeran, but that was Matt Oliver at Suncorp Stadium. It cost over $1 million to replace the turf.
Yeah. So 700,000 is a bargain if you don't have to replace the turf.
Exactly. It's nuts. But I had so this will be crazy. We're gonna try and do something. I had the head curator or the turf manager at Eden Park, which is the kind of the major stadium in New Zealand. And we had some technical issues. And I had to cut the episode. Believe it or not, it felt short, but it was still an hour and a half long. And I said, look, we got to do an episode, a part 2 sometime. And I was shocked, but he said, if you want to do part 2, we've got to do it in the middle of the field. And I was like, as a sports fan, it's like, quick, let's get off the phone call before you change your mind. Do you know what I mean? Like, what an offer. And then I got off the phone and I was like, do you know we're doing a tour? And he's like, no, I didn't know we're doing a tour. I was like, would you like to do a New Zealand event? And he was like, that'd be great. And I was like, I don't know if I could even do it, but I don't know. So we've reached out to some sponsors in New Zealand and we're like, let's see, so we may do a New Zealand event. But he told me, so he's been the head groundskeeper there since the year 2000, right? But he said, if we did an event, and I might be speaking our school here, but whatever. So we'll do it in the middle of the field. I'm like, what? So what they would usually charge, like Ed Sheeran, $700,000 for, at least that's some stadiums in Australia. He's like, let's just do it. Like, man, I love that people. So some people have that attitude where they're just like, I don't know, they're just keen of doing these events, and that's what's making this so exciting. Because like with Perth. By the way, if anybody's running a business that they want to sponsor the Melbourne event, we currently don't have enough sponsors to cover costs. We're getting close, but if we get enough, we might invite Chloe Thompson. We can afford the extra microphones. But anyways, that's it's cool that instead of because the community is so supportive of it, you don't have to sell your soul to certain brands or whatever to make it this commercialized, stupid, over the top event. It's just like people just want to get involved. So it's making the 2 a.m. finishes worth it at the moment.
Yeah, I love that you're doing it, because I remember there's 1 or 2 podcasters in North America who I was listening to, and they were doing tours around the country and podcasting along the way, and it sounds like it's a hell of a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm excited just to follow along with the rest of your journey, as well as catching up in Melbourne.
Yeah, and having a celebration for your 200th. What are the odds that we flew that? That'd be sick.
Yeah.
No. We should get you a big birthday cake. I'll go and do it with 200 candles.
Well, it depends how many sponsors you get, if you can afford that.
Mate, it's going to be a Coles cake. Don't get your hopes up.
They're like $12 now.
I may as well buy you a Zinger box and put some candles on that.
Yeah. That sounds like a plan. All right. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing what you're up to, Luke, and looking forward to following along in about a month when it all kicks off.
Thank you for letting me bore your audience with just talking about random rubbish.